The wind came low across the prairie that evening, bending the wheat like it was whispering secrets only the land could understand. And every man in the small territory town of Red Hollow knew something terrible was about to happen. They stood in a half-circle near the wooden rail fence, boots grinding dust into the earth, hats low over their brows, watching as Elias Turner, the quiet farmer no one paid much attention to, tightened the reins around the frightened mare tied near the barn. "I'm begging you, don't." Martha Calloway's voice trembled as she stepped forward, her hands shaking, her eyes red from crying. She wasn't talking to the wind. She wasn't talking to the men. She was talking to Elias. But Elias didn't answer her. He didn't look at her. His jaw was set like stone carved by hardship. And his hands, cracked from years of soil and sweat, moved with calm certainty. Red Hollow had rules. Unspoken ones. You didn't cross the land baron, Cyrus Wainwright. You didn't question his claims. You didn't interfere when his riders marked a property with red paint. And you certainly didn't ride straight toward his estate after sunset carrying a shotgun strapped to your saddle. But Elias Turner had just buried his son that morning. 16 years old. Shot, accidentally, they said. Strayed too close to Wainwright's new fencing. A misunderstanding. That was the word they used. Misunderstanding. The town accepted it. They always accepted it. Because fear is easier to live with than courage. But Elias had stood at the grave in silence while dirt hit the coffin lid. And something inside him had shifted in a way no one could see yet. Now Martha stood between him and the open prairie road. "They'll kill you," she whispered. "That's what they do." A murmur of agreement rippled through the men. Old Tom Barlow cleared his throat. "You can't win this, Elias." But Elias finally looked up, and when he did, something in his eyes made the men step back half a pace. It wasn't rage. Rage burns fast. This was something colder. Something decided. "I'm not riding to win," he said quietly. "I'm riding so they know." The words hung there, confusing them. Know what? That a farmer could bleed. That a man could lose everything and still stand. No one understood yet. He swung into the saddle before anyone could grab the reins. And Martha reached out one last time. "Please." She choked. "Don't make it worse." Elias paused then, just for a second. And the prairie went silent like the whole territory was holding its breath. "Worse already happened," he said. Then he rode. The sun dipped low, throwing gold fire across the fields. As he crossed land that used to be his father's before. Debts and drought and Wainwright's offers. Took it piece by piece. He rode past the red-painted fence posts that marked stolen acres. Past the creek where his son used to fish. Past the oak tree struck by lightning years ago, still standing, though hollowed. He reached Wainwright's estate just as lanterns were being lit along the veranda. Laughter drifted out, expensive, careless laughter. 2 armed guards stepped forward. "Turn back," one warned. Elias didn't slow. The second guard raised his rifle, and Elias fired first. The blast shattered the quiet. Horses reared. Men shouted. One guard fell. The other scrambled for cover. Elias didn't charge recklessly. He rode straight to the main gate and dismounted with terrifying calm. More riders poured from the stables. Cyrus Wainwright himself stepped onto the veranda. Silk vest gleaming in lantern light. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded. Elias looked up at the men who owned half the territory and said only one thing. "You took the wrong boy." The courtyard froze. Wainwright laughed, actually laughed. As if this was some drunken farmer's tantrum. "Accidents happen," he replied smoothly. "Not tonight," Elias answered. And then something happened no one in Red Hollow would ever forget. Elias didn't aim at Wainwright. He aimed at the oil lantern hanging beside the stable doors. One precise shot. Glass exploded. Flames leapt hungry and wild into dry hay. Chaos erupted. Horses screamed. Men scrambled. Elias moved through the confusion not as a crazed father, but as a man executing a decision long settled in his bones. He wasn't there to die. He wasn't there to beg. He was there to break the illusion. Within minutes the prized stable, Wainwright's symbol of dominance, was ablaze against the darkening sky. Smoke rolled high, visible all the way to Red Hollow. And the men watching from town would later swear they saw something else in those flames, not destruction, but defiance. Wainwright shouted orders, but authority weakens when fear shifts direction. Elias mounted again before the riders could surround him. He locked eyes with Wainwright one last time. "Land don't belong to thieves," he said. Then he rode back through the firelit dust while the estate burned behind him. By the time he reached town, people had gathered, drawn by the smoke column rising against the stars. Martha stepped forward again, but this time she didn't beg. She searched his face for madness, and found none. Only resolve. Behind him, the territory's most powerful man was bleeding wealth and pride into ash. And for the first time in years, the people of Red Hollow felt something unfamiliar stirring in their chests. Hope. But hope is dangerous. Because when one man stands, others must decide whether to kneel or rise. And that night, as Elias dismounted and quietly walked past the silent crowd, every soul knew the territory would never be the same. Again the fire burned all night. And by dawn the smoke drifting across the prairie looked like a warning written across the sky. Cyrus Wainwright did not sleep. Pride is a fragile crown. And Elias Turner had cracked it in front of the entire territory. By sunrise, riders thundered toward Red Hollow with rifles strapped and tempers loaded. Word traveled faster than horses, it always does when fear is involved. Some said Elias had lost his mind. Others said he had found it. But when the riders arrived, they didn't find a trembling farmer waiting to surrender. They found the entire town standing in the road. Men, women, even boys barely old enough to shave. Not armed like soldiers, but armed enough. Hunting rifles, shotguns, farm tools gripped tight. And Elias stood at the front, hat low, posture steady. Wainwright rode forward, face tight with fury barely contained. "You think burning wood makes you powerful?" he sneered. Elias shook his head. "No. It makes you mortal." The insult struck deeper than any bullet. Wainwright signaled his men, but something had shifted. The riders hesitated. Because behind Elias were not rebels, they were neighbors. People Wainwright depended on. Supplied by. Borrowed from. The illusion of untouchable power had cracked in the firelight. And now everyone could see it. Wainwright realized in that terrible quiet that killing Elias would not restore fear. It would ignite something larger. His voice dropped cold. "This isn't over." Elias nodded once. It never was. And the riders turned back, not defeated, but uncertain. That uncertainty spread faster than flames. Within weeks, farmers refused new land contracts. Ranch hands quit without notice. Store owners extended credit only to families, not to Wainwright's men. It wasn't loud. It wasn't violent. It was steady. And steady pressure can break stone. Wainwright tried intimidation. He tried bribery. He tried threats. But the spell was broken. Because one grieving father had shown the territory that power only survives if everyone agrees to believe in it. And the most shocking part, Elias didn't become a leader. He didn't give speeches. He didn't demand loyalty. He simply returned to his field and began planting again, on land still technically disputed. When Wainwright's men came to tear down his fence, they found 3 neighboring farmers rebuilding it before sunset. When they threatened arrests, the sheriff, who had buried Elias's son with his own hands, declined to enforce private misunderstandings the territory had chosen. Months later, Cyrus Wainwright sold off portions of his holdings quietly and left before winter. No gunfight. No final duel. Just departure. Because control built on fear cannot survive courage multiplied. And on the first harvest after Wainwright's departure, Elias stood in a field of wheat taller than it had grown in years. Martha approached him once more, but this time there were no tears. "You changed everything," she said softly. Elias looked across the land, golden and endless. "No," he replied. "I just stopped kneeling." The story of Red Hollow spread beyond the territory. Some exaggerated it. Some romanticized it. But those who were there remembered the truth. It started with a plea, "I'm begging you, don't." And ended with a community realizing they didn't have to beg anymore. And that is how one quiet farmer shocked an entire territory, not by becoming a hero, but by reminding ordinary people what they were capable of when fear lost its grip. If this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you that courage can start with just one person, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because the next story might be the one that stays with you forever.